Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. All right, hello. Welcome to the February 26th edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast for 2021. My name is Shelley Overton, and I'm coming to you with two different cameras and an audio recording because we're going to get this week in one take. Okay, got a lot to go over. Let's just get our chart up for now. Pardon me, I got a little tickle because, angels are coming in, so my nose is tickling, of course. It's the way it always is. I'm going to get it with asteroids this time. So anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I don't know why I brought that up. That was strange. Okay. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Florida. And I come to you in a podcast every week. I've been doing podcasts for about 11 years now. Coming up on 11 years, 2010. And so June 2nd, I believe, is my anniversary date. There we go. And so I've been doing these podcasts on Blog Talk Radio. Now I'm on SoundCloud. And we're just going to get on with what else is going on in the sky. I'm going to get an asteroid now chart up. I've got probably about 5 charts up, 5 or 6 charts. And so that way I can tell you all what's going on now, but we're also going to go over some other current events that have happened this past week, just so it can help you learn astrology a little bit more. And with that, I'm going to just make a quick plug for my ebook, which is a digital book I have on my website called Learn Astrology. It's an illustrated guide for beginners, and you can find it at angeliczodiac.com, and I'll put a little picture up one side or the other, whichever one I have the charts on this week. And that gives you all the information to get going with beginning astrology. I break it down. I try to make it a little bit more user-friendly by illustrating it. I am an illustrator and an artist also in another life. And so it's a very beautiful, brightly colored, illustrated book that I've worked on. And I'm really excited to promote it. I don't promote it very often, but I really want you all to know that it's out there. If you're interested in finding out more about astrology, it's on my website, angeliczodiac.com. And so yeah, let's get on with what we've got going on this week. So currently in Spring Hill, which is where I'm at, we have a 26-degree Gemini rising, and we've got the moon at 0 degrees Virgo, which it just went into Virgo. So let's just find out when that is, because every week I really put off doing my podcast until the moon enters the next sign, because when you start at the end degrees of a moon, nothing can come from it. Void, of course. So the moon just entered at 12:07. It's now 12:50, so that worked out just lovely. And we have a 15-degree Vesta in Virgo. And it's interesting because I was thinking about this yesterday. Vesta, again, mythologically, it is the Vestal Virgins who in, I believe, ancient Rome, I don't think it was Athens, I don't think it was Greek mythology, I think it's Roman mythology. Anyway, they were the keepers of the documents and keepers of the Vestal flame. So they keep the fire burning, and they keep the archival quality of the documents and also the safety of the documents. And it is a very Virgoan, is that the right word? Virgoite, Virgonian type of energy, where they are meticulous, they watch what's coming and going, and they know what the documents are, coming and going, and they hold on to them for the government. And so, interestingly, this week, of course, we have all of Trump's documents coming out. And so they finally released all of his tax documents and his financial records. So we have that now. And Virgo, 15 degrees. I think that's really close to Trump's. I think his sun is at 16 degrees of Gemini. So it's a direct square to his sun. And we have now today, back when that happened, I think that was right when the moon went into Leo, but it might have been in Cancer. I honestly don't have a chart for that. but it was just a few days ago, two days ago probably, so I'm guessing it was Libra, which is scales of justice and balance. Yeah, so we have that energy coming into that specific event, but really the keeper of the documents is Vesta. And then we also have Mercury having just gone direct this week, and Mercury went direct, let's just look back, on Saturday the 20th. And so once that happened, that was, so I've got to get through this week's astrology and then go to current events. It's happening really quick. It's all coming in. I've got so many notes for this week. I didn't want to leave anything out, but yeah, so we've got all this stuff going on, but let's just focus on now because my caffeinated Aquarian Mercury in Virgo mind is just popping in all directions. Okay, so Virgo energy for Vesta, and then we move over to the South and North nodes, which are the nodes of fate, and they affect world events, and they can affect world events, but in our personal charts, they affect what we bring in from the past and where we're heading. And currently in the Gemini North Node, Sagittarius South Node axis, we're talking about information, understanding, energy around travel and teachers right now, and musicians, comedians, all under the Sagittarius energy coming in from the past. I'm sorry, oh my gosh. You would think that I never pay attention to my nose before this show, but it's quite honestly very itchy right now. So I know a lot of angelic energy coming in today, which is good. We've got the angels here to really make sure that we've got everything the way we should. So yeah, we've got that, and then Juno, which is one of the moons of Jupiter, which I have to tell you, I know I'm going to be really tangential today, I'm just going to let you know, but Aquarius is a very tangential sign, and there's still 4 entities in Aquarius, and so I'm going to be bringing in stuff as it comes in. Juno is one of the moons of Jupiter, and I was looking at a map this morning because my son lives not far from Jupiter, Florida, and I was looking at that area. Ironically, he also lives about 10 to 15 miles away from Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago right now. And so I was looking at the map, and I noticed that just north of him is Jupiter, Florida, which is where those of you who are older know Burt Reynolds used to live when he was alive. And just south of there, I found it really fascinating, there is a Juno, Florida. And so Jupiter and Juno are labeled cities in Florida. And I knew Jupiter, but I didn't know Juno. So that's really a cool connection also that I noticed. And so Juno is at 19 degrees Sagittarius. So Juno is a moon of Jupiter and is the energy of relationships and, what we do with them. In Sagittarius, it is actually interesting because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And so it's in Jupiter's sign. So he's kind of in his own orbit of understanding right now with Jupiter, which answers to Jupiter in Aquarius, and is in sextile within 3 degrees of sextile, or 60 degrees away from Jupiter in the sky right now. So I got chills with this. So we may actually be finding out some information about Jupiter this week. That would be really interesting, wouldn't it? Or even Juno. Because Mercury is 4 degrees now. Remember, he retrograded over Jupiter, and now he's going back direct, retrograded this way for you, and back direct over Jupiter within 4 degrees. So Mercury is at 12 degrees of Aquarius, and Jupiter is at 16 degrees of Aquarius. So Mercury will be going back over Jupiter in the next 4 days. He goes about a degree a day. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, about 4 or 5 days, he'll cross over Jupiter, and there will be conjunction, which is coming up next week, and I'll talk about it in a minute here. I'm just kind of giving you an overview right now. So yeah, the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, communication, awareness, expansion of understanding. Again, it's technology, but it's also Jupiter expands whatever energies he's in, and that's technology and electricity. So now Mercury goes back over Jupiter, an expansion of what we found out about Texas and the electrical systems in Texas. Jupiter wants us to be aware, wants us to understand, especially in Aquarius, and do something. He's a doer. He wants action to be taken. Mercury is also a teacher and an educator, so we're learning from this event in Texas. And then, okay, so just giving you again, overview. Pluto at 25 Capricorn, and let's see if he's got anything coming in. He's got, let's see, a trine to Mars at 26 degrees today. They already had an exact trine. Again, that's some strong energy. It's about upheaval and friction, because again, remember, trines, even though they're positive transits and positive aspects, they can bring out the problem for us to solve, and ultimately it will turn out well. So Mars taking action in Taurus about money. We had, interestingly, a really good week this week with Bitcoin, and that's the technology aspect. Jupiter and Mercury and Saturn all in Aquarius, but then Mars and Taurus and Uranus in Taurus. It's about tech, money, because Taurus rules money. Venus is the ruler of that. Venus just switched signs and she went into Pisces, and I think it was just a few days ago. I don't really, oh, there it is. No, it was Thursday. It was only yesterday. So Venus is now in Pisces and right on my Saturn. So we'll see what happens there. It's about money in a larger sense, a broader universal sense of money and connection to the value of women. It is about, and then Venus is coming up on the Sun also. Sun's at 8 degrees of Pisces right now. And so women, expansion of dreams and ideals and the vision for the future, the connectedness to the past, vintage energy, older women. It is also, of course, because of Neptune being there and just the sheer understanding of Pisces. It's the old guard, the old story, and it can also be retirement or retiring of ideas or moving on of the old. So Venus in Pisces is about, bringing up the old story, but it is also a transitionary stage where Venus going over the Sun, it's understanding the ego, understanding the desire, the feminine nature, the receptivity, water energy. This, of course, because of what happened in Texas with water pipes, is when we fix what happened, because the aesthetics, the materiality, having our home, having the goods, the material goods, which is what Taurus rules. Venus rules Taurus, so we bring in the materiality of it. And having Venus coming over in the next week over the Sun will be the sense of possessions as it relates to my sense of self and my sense of who I am as a person, and really the ego. And so we are connected to our material goods this week, but Pisces wants us to understand that it's part of the collective. We are not only our possessions. And so we are getting an overview of how those possessions are going into the collective flow. And we'll see how we can help other people, we can be of service, or we can heal other people. And it's universal love energy. So really community in a connectedness, in an emotional connectedness way, coming in with that. We've got Ceres in Ceres in Aries, so planting new things for growth. Remember, Ceres is like the planter, farmer of the zodiac, so we're going to be planting things. And he's coming up on Chiron, and Chiron is the wounded healer, but it can also be a new discovery of Renaissance aspects of things, the arts, music, things of beauty, other endeavors that we can focus our attention on instead of just the pain and suffering. Okay, so that's kind of a good overview of what's going on today. We have the moon in the one hemisphere around the Earth, and most of the other planets and asteroids in the other atmosphere. So currently here, it's just afternoon in Florida. All the planets except for, in asteroids, except for Juno, Vesta, and the moon are all in the upper half of the sky here. So they go around the Earth as the Earth rotates. They'll be on the southern half overnight, and during the day they're on our half of the Earth, the northern hemisphere. Okay, so yeah, that's a good overview. I'm going to have the pictures right here, the chart posted, and then we're going to talk about a few of the aspects coming up this week, and then I'm going to get to current events because there was a lot of things I wanted to talk about there. So today we've just got, like I said, moon entering Virgo, And I don't know, there's a trine between the moon and Uranus tonight for Pacific time zone at 9:54 p.m. And so that's going to be something electrical, meticulous, analytical. We're going to be using our minds. It is the materiality of the mindset. So it can be doing homework. It can be figuring out your electricals and appliances. Something can be going on with that. And then it's a trine. So you may be looking to fix a little problem with your appliances or your electrical. Also, Virgo moon accidents are a possibility even when Mercury is direct. It is still in its shadow, so be aware around the home of possible accidents and electrical issues. I'm just going to give you a heads up. And you may or may not get this particular warning before it happens. I'm going to try and get this up before tonight. So if you watch it early, you'll get it. And it's probably a good idea to watch the videos early for the early information. Saturday, we've got the full moon at 3:17 in the morning, which is so overnight tonight into the morning, 3:17 a.m. Eastern, 12:17 a.m. Pacific. And, lately it's been a lot of sleepless full moons. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. If you're having a hard time sleeping, that could be why, especially 3 in the morning. 3 to 4 in the morning seems to be the time that we always have issues of waking up and, information comes in. I've been doing really good. I find that when I decide when I go to bed at night that I'm just going to sleep through the night, I am left alone. I can sleep through the night, and it's a really good thing. There are cycles that when I want to learn more information or clue into what Spirit has to say in a more conscious way, I am awakened at like 3 or 4 in the morning. Usually about 3:15 I wake up and then my mind races. But I have shut off from some of that energy in the last couple months because it can be really exhausting if you're on a growth cycle and you wake up and pay attention. Maybe you go into a meditative state but not a full sleep state. Information comes, and I get a lot of what I talk about on my podcast in the night. I've discussed this probably more than anybody wants to hear. So anyway, overnight tonight, that's going to be there. And then we've got, let's see if there's anything else I want to talk about. It's mostly moon aspects to Mercury, in conjunct to Mercury at 10:25 a.m. on Saturday, in conjunct Jupiter 3:40 in the afternoon on Saturday. And then in opposition to Neptune, coming up 10:06 p.m., 7:06 Pacific, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. And so the opposition of Moon to Neptune is there's that dreamy quality. Definitely Moon in Virgo is analytical and more particular and prim and proper, and you did this and this is the consequence and I'm going to take you to task for it, especially with the Moon in Virgo. And when the moon is at 8 degrees and Vesta in Virgo, the moon will only be about 7 degrees off of Vesta when it's full. So it will shine some overcast of light onto Vesta. Of course, we won't necessarily see it without a telescope, and even so, the moon will be so bright, I don't know how you're really going to see Vesta with the full moon. But Vesta energy is still there. And so there are fire energies, but it's really the flame of knowledge and understanding. And I've been watching, that's almost like a run-on sentence. I've been watching a Netflix series called The Magicians, which I'm really getting into, except for the gore. And it's a little bit harsher than in certain areas. Like the language is very raw. It's got some pretty blatant sex scenes, and also it's very gory. Like, I'll give you a heads up, exploding cats. So I go like this when I see it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to see that. But I look past certain things because the storyline is really interesting and it isn't very cliche. They do bring in a lot of fun elements, like there's some musical scenes and stuff like this, but it's a really interesting TV show which was on Sci-Fi in 2015, I think through 2020. So it's about 6 seasons and I really am liking this series, and I'm up to the beginning of season 4. And just to give you an idea, a few days ago, the beginning of the week, I was on season 1. So I'm binge watching it for like 3 or 4 hours every night. Just really loving this show. Will probably miss it when it's done. But if you're interested in something really interesting to watch on Netflix, I recommend it, The Magicians. And it's like a Harry Potter for adults, but a lot more complex and a lot more involved. Some of the storylines I have to really focus to get, but the reason I bring it up is because that energy really works well with what we're doing right now. And all of the Pisces energy, remember Venus, Sun, Neptune in Pisces, and then Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter, and Pallas Athena are all in Aquarius. The Aquarian Pisces area of the sky is really lit up, and that is the magical area of the sky. Aquarius is the alchemist. It thinks through things that can happen and wants to do the science of it and the chemistry of it, and how can we change things through science and chemistry and ideas and quantum understanding of different alternative timelines. It's obviously something I'm very passionate about. I've got Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, right next to my sun. Definitely having the Aquarius-Pisces connection is really the magical area of the sky. And because Aquarius is that alchemist and Pisces is the sage and the wise one, it is also, excuse me, I would say the herbalist, or someone who understands the nature of things and the flow of energy in the rivers, and I got chills with that, intuits the flow and the energy. It's really interesting, like I was mentioning, the magicians. In the storyline of the magicians, they're dealing with fairies right now, and fairies are growing mushrooms as a way of propagating the fairy energy and new fairies. They have eggs underneath the mushrooms, so it's a really interesting storyline about elementals and nature. And so, I would just recommend watching The Magicians because it's a really interesting show on Netflix, now on Netflix. Anyway, it's the magical area of the sky. So if you feel more interested in understanding your magical nature, which really is a release from being completely in just the material world, which we've been moving Pluto in Capricorn, all the Saturn, Jupiter, all the planets that were in Capricorn last year, they moved on to Aquarius with the exception of Pluto. So Pluto in Capricorn is N degrees, bringing in more awareness of the earth. We are understanding the material world. And I wrote down a few notes about all that. Let me see if I can find them because I have so many things to talk about. And I have to keep an eye on this camera so I get all of this recorded properly. But let me see if I've got it on one of these pages I wrote to do. Contrast, yeah. Anyway, it has to do with the contrast and, okay, here it is. Good. Having Capricorn Aquarius energy there. Okay, this is something that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to get to the news. It may be a very long podcast today, and I'm talking fast partly to get it all in. But we've got Capricorn energy and Aquarius energy. So Capricorn is a contractor and Aquarius is an expander. If you go around the zodiac from sign to sign, it's every other sign, expand, contract, expand, contract, expand, contract. So I wrote them down for you because I know it can be a little confusing, but Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, Aquarius are the expanders. And Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces are contractors. So we expand and contract, expand and contract. We understand, it's almost like a heartbeat of the universe, if you think about it that way. We, and the body pushes blood out of the heart and opens up to the new flow, and out and in and out and in. So you have to have both. We don't live unless new blood comes in and old waste in the blood, the carbon dioxide goes out. And so we're in this cycle of expansion, contraction. When the planets go through stelliums in certain areas, we are focused on those type of energies. So the stellium of planets in Capricorn in 2020 was a contraction energy. It was like, no, let's go and look focused on what it is we want to accomplish. And then the planets went into Aquarius at the end of last year, and it was an expansion of knowledge, a renaissance of understanding and awakening, being woke. And so that's kind of the energy of Aquarius right now. But we also have now 3 planets in Pisces, which is again contracting. So what you have to do is look at which planets are contracting and which ones are expanding. So the contractors right now are Pluto, Venus, Sun, Neptune, Uranus, which is an expansive understanding, but he's in a contractive sign, and Mars in Taurus. And then we have, hang on, I'm having issues. Anyway, okay, so yeah, we've got, I'll just reiterate, Pluto, Venus, Sun, Neptune, Uranus, and Mars are all in contractors. So if you are a sun sign that answers to those planets, so that would be Scorpio, Taurus, Libra, Leo, possibly Aries, also a little bit. Aries, Sun is ego, and Aries is also ego. But also Mars is in contraction, so definitely Aries. And Neptune, which is Pisces. Those signs are going to be the ones that are going within. And Uranus is Aquarian, so he's a mixed bag right now, of course, because Aquarius and Uranus energy are squaring each other. So the expanders are Saturn, which is a contracting planet, but he's trying to contract and understand technology and expansive ideas. He's trying to put form to ideas. So it is a very strong entrepreneurial energy, a very strong inventive energy going on with Saturn right now. And currently it's kind of like he's uncomfortable in Aquarius because there's a lot of chaos and he wants to make order out of the chaos, but that isn't necessarily what is easy for him. So, I mean, it's easy for him to order things, but it's hard to live in the chaos. So it's kind of anxiety ridden. And Aquarius can bring us this anxiety, but as we learn to work with the energies, the anxiety calms down a bit. And especially 3 planets in Pisces are definitely going to calm us down, almost to the point of wanting to go to sleep. And I would recommend that if you're tired, definitely take time to rest and relax, because that's what Pisces wants us to do. It is a calming, again, expansion, contraction. The contraction of Pisces is I need rest. There's too much going on and now my mind just needs to rest. Pluto is the controller and the organizer, and he tries to control everybody's stuff. We can't do that anymore because it's too much. Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter, Pallas Athena in Aquarius, excited by the new energy, looking for opportunities, looking for different ways of expression, different ideas, connecting to other people, communicating, friendship, networking, lots of activity going on, mental activity. So it's a little bit more stressful in the Aquarian part of the sky. And then we have the Pisces again wanting to sleep and relax and rest. And then we get to Taurus, which is just steadily working towards the goals. So that's part of the energy that we're really expressing this week. We've got going to, in about Sunday morning, we're going to have a grand trine in Earth. And that is the moon trining Mars, trining Pluto. So home, family, major force forward with possibly moving. I've got that written down, that there's a lot of moving energy, especially Mercury, Jupiter this week. That connection is closing on houses, moving houses, packing. I've seen a lot of people lately moving on Instagram, on YouTube. All the people I follow, they're like, we're moving. We just moved. Moving, moving, moving. My sister is closing on a house. She sold hers. She's buying a new one. So yeah, there's a lot of moving energy out there. Not surprising. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to get to everything I wrote notes on here, but I kind of am touching on everything. Yeah, home, family, at odds with. So come Sunday, we're going to have what are the ideas of home, and they're kind of at odds with our desire to just chill and be relaxed, and versus what we want to do and how we want to do it. That's going to come in. And then people, I want to say this too, because Pisces is seen as a lazy sign to our workaday Virgo-esque, Virgo-driven country. Remember, Virgo was the constellation Washington, D.C. was set up on, so we are very much motivated workers in this country, and we're kind of workaholics. But the opposite sign is Pisces, and Pisces wants us to slow down, take our breaks, relax, and so it's not a lazy sign, it's an allowing sign. And I've mentioned this, again, there's going to be a certain amount of repeat in the podcast for those who listen regularly, but repeat is a good way to help you. Repetition helps you understand. Okay, now let's see where we're going here, if I have any more notes. Okay, so this is current events, and let me get into my different charts. I've got so many charts open here. Let's see if I can find the right one. Okay, Tiger Woods. Okay, so Tiger Woods had a car accident Tuesday morning, February 23rd, and he's kind of had some issues. He's had DUIs. He had 2 different incidents. One was an accident. One was just falling asleep at the wheel here in Florida when he lived here. And now he's got this LA thing where he was borrowing a car and he went off the road with no braking whatsoever. So for me, that's like either texting, falling asleep at the wheel. It was 7:20 in the morning, 7:23 a.m. or excuse me, 7:12 a.m. That's the time that they said on one of the news articles. So what does that mean? He has, at that moment, Mercury was direct. I think that was the day it went direct. Let me just double check. 23. No. No, Mercury went direct on the 20th. But it was, remember, Mercury's still in his shadow till the 13th of March. Anyway, so we've got the Mercury energy right next to Jupiter, and he had an opposition of Saturn. He has 7 degrees Saturn in Aquarius and Saturn in his chart at 1 degree of Leo. His house of, boy, that's really tough. His house of transportation and communication, thought, which is the Mercury house, and Mercury rules this energy. South node at 16, right between his Neptune and his moon, in the house of transportation, and that's the node of fate, the south node, and the north node was 1 degree off of his Mars in Gemini. So the 9th house, where his Mars in Gemini is transportation. It's long distance, so he was away. Mars just went in by 2 degrees into his house of transportation, the 9th house, ruled by Sagittarius. So now he's got Mars in Taurus, which is materiality, and I always look at Taurus and Gemini for transportation. Gemini is the movement, and Taurus is the physical vehicle that we have. And so Mars in Taurus, taking action in a vehicle, in a physical material vehicle, in the house of transportation, long distance. I don't think he's living in LA. I know he probably has a house there, but I'm pretty sure he still lives in Florida. I think he's over in Palm Beach also. But we have the node of fate on his Mars opposite his Neptune moon in Sagittarius. And so that Mars, his natal Mars opposition to Neptune, can be really difficult because his Mars wants to go quickly, mental quickness, going, taking action without thinking about it. And also remember, Gemini rules technology. So looking at this chart, there's a very strong chance that there was some technology involved, whether it was a glitch in the computer system of the car, a distraction of attention, a technology, like texting or something. Definitely tech is involved with this situation. There is a trine between Jupiter and his natal Mars. Again, I said there's an adjustment energy with trines. There's something that says, wake up, you need to make this adjustment. So Jupiter, transportation, and Aquarius, the unexpected. And then the energy in his house of health, which is the 6th house, Venus, transportation in Aquarius, the unexpected, again, electrical. So there's something in the nervous system, the spinal column, a cognizance, anything that has to do with overarching understanding, like mental understanding, mental acuity, communications, the body nervous system, and even the joints, how things move in the body is all part of that. Venus is the throat and communications in technology. So if you want to take it literal, Venus and Aquarius in the house of health, something going on with communications in this moment technologically. And then he's got the Sun and Neptune transiting his house of health. So 20 degree Neptune, 4 degrees off of a shift into the northern hemisphere in his chart, or changing signs to the we, the collective, versus the me, the I, the health of the person and the individual. So yeah, there are some health aspects, and the health aspects are related to Neptune in Pisces squaring his natal Mars and the North Node. This is a major, major accident for himself in his career and in his life. I think that's obvious by what we know of it. I haven't heard anything. His legs were affected. Jupiter's transportation in Aquarius, which is technology, and it rules the legs. So, man, I mean, I don't wish ill on anybody, even someone who's made poor decisions in their life and definitely has his issues with women. But, you know, nobody should have to suffer such a terrible fate. And his career is definitely going to be affected. I don't know how he's going to come back from this. I wish him the best. I hope he does. Mars coming up on his Gemini in about a month, in his Gemini Mars. That's when he's going to be doing the therapy for this. So he's got a ways to go. But Mars hitting his midheaven in Gemini, he's going to have mental acuity to make this work. Anyway, moving on to other things. I found one other thing I wanted to touch on before we end this podcast is the United Airlines engine exploding over Broomfield, Colorado. I actually lived about 10 miles from Broomfield when I moved back to Colorado in 1985. I went through Broomfield all the time. I worked in Broomfield at the business airport there. And of course, I'm a native Coloradan and lived in Denver a good 15 years from 85 to 2000, the end of 2000. So I have a personal vested interest in that. And I also, as an astrologer and just in my chart, am for some reason fascinated by air incidents. And so I keep track of these things. But this is what happened at that time, and I find it really interesting. At the time of this, and my computer pulled up the Swiss Air accident, which was September 2nd, 98. I don't know why. Maybe I'll look at that if I want to here, but I've got limited time before my camera shuts off again, and I know this one's struggling, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, the engine blew Saturday, February 20th, 2021 at 1:04 p.m. Actually, I take it back. It took off at 1:04, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I've got the time it took off, and I actually did a screen recording of the flight aware where it takes off, it gets over Broomfield, and it turns back. I actually have the animation of that event because I watched FlightAware, and you could put in the call letter, so it was UA 328, and it was still the same day, and you could go back over the exact route that they took. And so you can see exactly how the airspeed was and how the height, you know, how high they were. They were at 13,000 and some change, going about 350 miles an hour when that engine was blown, and then it shows them turning around and going back, which they're extremely fortunate. So 1:04 p.m. I believe is when the flight took off. So the reason that this is super fascinating that day is because, again, Mercury was close to Jupiter. It was 3 degrees away from Jupiter, and the moon was in Gemini, which answers to Mercury. And so when I look at airplane travel, you always want to look at the rising sign at the moment of takeoff, because that can give you some clues as to what the rulership of the plane is in the event. And then you look at the moon and Mercury and Jupiter and any other energies that could be in signs that answer to transportation technology, anything unexpected. So you look at Uranus, you look at Mercury, you look at Mars, you look at the sun, you look at aspects between them, you look at everything, I suppose. But when I look at charts like this, I see what jumps out, but also connected events. And one of the two connected events were in that same timeline. So that happened Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but Friday the 19th at 11:45 a.m. in LA, there was a Cessna that took off and crashed. And that happened, like I said, Friday in about midday. So it crashed. I know some people were killed. And then there was also another Air Force plane that crashed and killed 2 pilots in a training endeavor over Alabama, Montgomery, at 5 o'clock p.m. Friday the 19th. So 3 air accidents within a day, within 24 hours. We've got 3 air accidents within a day, and 2 were bad with casualties, and one was not, and one made it back. So what's the difference? Well, looking at these charts, the first one that happened, the Cessna in LA, took off with a 15-degree Gemini rising. So the event was ruled by Mercury, and it had North Node at 16. So the rising sign was 15, the North Node was 16. This was an event that was a fated moment. And Mercury was at 11 retrograde that day. So between the time that, and they were all retrograde, okay? So Mercury was retrograde, which accidents in technology, there was something that went wrong with understanding, with technology, probably in all three accidents, or energies, events. So what was the difference? Well, the Cessna, the moon had just gone into Gemini and was in the last house, so the 12th house of the hidden, with Mars at 22 Taurus, and they were both trining Pluto in the 8th house of death. They all had, well, excuse me, the Cessna had a planet in the 8th house, and the engine blowing had planets in the 8th house. So the United flight in Colorado was extremely fortunate, and we'll find out why before I get shut off from my camera again. So the Cessna, definitely the things that stick out to me are everything is above the horizon, and the planets, there are planets and lights that fall in the 12th house of endings. And we have Sun at 1 degree Pisces. It just went into Pisces at the midheaven in the awareness, and Venus at 22, 3 degrees off the midheaven in Aquarius. Really the things that I'm seeing here most notably are the fact that the moon for the Cessna and the Air Force plane were both in the beginning degrees of Gemini, and in an aspect, especially the moon approaching Saturn in the Virgo house, again ruled by Mercury. Moon in Gemini aspecting Saturn and Mercury retrograde and Jupiter in the house of Virgo, which is going to be earth energy and coming down to earth. I'm just trying, I was looking at this before, and okay, what was it? Oh yeah, a direct square. That was the day that Uranus squared Saturn at 7 degrees exact. And the Sun was the ruler of the Air Force accident because it was a 25 late degree rising sign in Leo, so that was the Sun. The Sun was at 1 degree of Pisces, and it was squaring the moon at 3 degrees of Gemini. So very close, tight orb of a square with all the planets falling in the Virgo house, which are significant to me. And then Uranus in Taurus squaring Saturn in the house of airplanes, which is the 9th house. So that's what I would look at for that event, specifically a late degree rising sign. Late degree to me is 25 to 29. And the moon at the beginning degrees of a sign ruled by Mercury with a Mercury retrograde, very significant. And then also Mercury at 11, very last degree of a square to the Sun at that moment, but Uranus being in the 9th house of transportation, and the Cessna crash, which was February 19th at 11:45 a.m. In Alabama. That one had moon at 1 degree Gemini in the 12th house with the North Node on the horizon at the moment of takeoff. Again, 1 degree exact square to the Sun in Pisces at the midheaven, and late degree Aquarius at the midheaven. Saturn, let's see, Saturn was not squaring anything direct that, oh no, I take it back, Saturn squared Uranus also. So what was it about the United Airlines? Well, it was an early degree of Cancer, which means the moon was affecting it. The moon was 3 degrees off of the North Node, but the moon was in trine, positive outcome, to Mercury that day. Whereas the moon was not in an exact connection to Mercury, but... Okay, so I'm going to have to wrap up soon because we're running out of patience with this camera.
Okay, so really what it comes down to is, in my opinion, the moon had moved farther along away from the direct square to the sun and was now trining Mercury as opposed to a square to Mercury. And so it had gone 2 degrees past an exact square. So when the plane took off, it was already past the difficulty with Mercury. Even though it was in Gemini, even though moon answers to Mercury because it's in Gemini, it was past and beyond that aspect. It came up on a trine to Jupiter. So it really was between a Mercury-Jupiter energy, Mercury at 11 degrees retrograde Aquarius and Jupiter at 14 degrees Aquarius, Jupiter fortune. It can indicate death. Jupiter is a transitionary energy. Venus was just 1 degree past the 8th house. Sometimes that can also indicate an expression of death, being that it passes out of the house that is death into the next house. It gives that energy. In other words, it manifests whatever was in the house before. But it was Venus, so desires. And the sun at this point was in sextile to Uranus, and it was approaching closer. I don't know. I would say overall, my take on it is that the moon was farther along. It was not directly squaring the sun, and it was closer to the north node, and it was just after Mercury. It wasn't approaching Mercury. It wasn't answering to the energy of Mercury anymore. It was answering to Jupiter. So the issue was culminated in some other storyline, so it didn't end poorly. Anyway, I hope that is easy to understand. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Thank you for having patience with my technology, because, technology. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to see if there's anything else I need to tell you for the rest of the week. Let's see if there's anything we need to say. Mars enters Gemini next week on the 3rd, the Wednesday, 3rd of March. And March, what does it do? It looks like a mixed bag of coming in like a lamb or a lion. I would say mostly lamb. Moon is in Libra, more balancing. But there are a few little things that nitpick. Relationships are an issue around, is it my ideal, and does this structure work for me? And then Tuesday, moon goes into Scorpio, so watch out for some depression. And I find coffee seems to really combat depression very well. Anyway, Venus sextiles Uranus on Wednesday, so it's good for creation, ideas, visions of love. And let's see, I have a client who mentioned renewed interest in money, and that's definitely something with the Mars, Uranus, and Taurus. So anyway, a lot of information this week. Thank you for sticking with me. We'll see you here soon. Don't forget to check out Angelic Zodiac. And also, if you're interested in any of my art, go to shelleyoverton.com. And thanks so much. All the information is linked below. See you later. See you next week. Take care. Love you. Bye.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, shelleyoverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.
Okay. Oh, let me just see if that's working. Hello. Are you working? Why are you not working? Why are you going to be this way? Hello? Why you got to be this way? Hello, 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 hello. I swear. Input. AirPods. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so you're working, but you're not. Services. Okay. Yeah, recording stopped because you know why? You're not recording anything. And I gotta have sound, right? Are you recording? He's gotta record. It ain't gonna be you, is it? Okay. There we go. Hello. Hello. You have to record. Oh, maybe you can't record without two. Is that right? You need both? Do you need both? Is that a thing? Oh, you haven't kicked over because I only had one in? Come on. Come on. Let's go, Lala. Okay, let's go. Nothing. Really? Nothing. Really? Okay, come on. Service output. Come on. Come on, baby. Come on. Input sources. Okay. No. 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 None of that. Sound. Out. In. Hello. Okay, that seems to be working. Out. Hello.
Hello.
In. Hello. Out.
Out.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I don't care. At this point, just record something, okay? Don't save it. Okay, good deal. Now we're going to do a new audio recording. Whatever. Hello. Okay. That's what it is. You got to turn the settings on the computer to input through the computer, but yet have your Bluetooth earbuds in, because why not? Okay, here we go. These pages, I wrote all my notes. Oh, Alexa, pause.